maybe concern the council members. Diane, would you like a roll call just for the sake of your record keeping?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and let
Kramer?
me call that up.
Present.
Greg,
I'm here.
Halter, Hearn Kane,
Here.
Lewis,
Present.
Littman,
Here.
Lombardi,
Here.
Starrett,
Here.
Barrett,
He's muted, but he's trying to say here.
Yeah, I'm here. Is that better?
yes, Eisnick,
Here.
and Richard.
He'll be right back.
Okay.
He's on the call. He's not at the bottom.
Oh, did he get back in?
Yeah, he's on.
All right, well then we will go ahead and start down our list. Community development.
I have nothing new tonight. I'll just briefly touch on the piece from last week. We obviously have the enterprise zone piece that we've all agreed to move forward on. And then if everybody got the, we did not catch last week that the CDBG funds were listed under finance, under community development. That's normally where they are. So Samantha and Diane sent out an email today just explaining that needs to be in community development. Me and Mr. Lewis had already given our verbals and we're both on community development. So community development for next week's regular meeting. All I have.
All right. Thank you. Environmental.
Nothing from environmental.
Health and welfare.
Nothing.
Parks and Rec.
I have nothing.
Police and fire.
I just wanted to confirm whether we actually had the memorandum of understanding. Is that still outstanding, Diane?
Who would that be directed to?
Diane. I asked if the police and fire, where the we were authorizing the mayor of the city of Massillon and Massillon Police Department to enter into the memorandum of understanding. I did not see in our last meeting where we'd actually voted on that, but I wanted to confirm with you.
It received first reading. It was a resolution. And it received first reading on the 2nd of March.
Oh, wait a minute. That's not the one I'm referring to.
Yeah, that,
This is the one that was originated on April 6th. It was regarding the transportation agreement.
correct. That is coming up as an ordinance on the 20th. That request, all those requests will not be ordinances until the 20th meeting.
Till the 20th. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is still pending.
Well, Justin has to review the ordinances tomorrow.
Okay, so
It will be
we had-
coming, it'll be coming forward on the April 20th meeting.
okay, we had agreed to add it to the agenda.
Well,
Is that correct?
yes, ma'am. Y'all gave me verbals, April the 6th via our teleconference work session. And as I said, it'll be coming forward as a ordinance for the April 20th meeting.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. I just wanted to confirm that.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't have anything further.
Thank you. Public utilities.
I have nothing.
Rules and courts.
I have nothing.
Streets.
I have nothing either.
All right, that leaves finance. We have one new piece tonight, which is a transfer from community in the community development. It's economic development salary reduction by $705, placing it into Medicare and realign the budget for all 2020 expenses related to Medicare through the end of the year due to payout not known when budget was submitted. Are there any questions or discussion related to this? Seeing none, I'll give my verbal for that to be signed.
As will I. Stare it.
Greg also is verbal.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any other discussion this evening?
Mr. Lewis, Mark Lombardi, Ward 1.
Yes?
Yes, I wanted to bring forward again the discussion about an animal control solution. A couple of weekends ago, I spent the evening, the night, and part of the morning on the phone with one of the residents of Ward 1 and the Massillon City Police and the sheriff regarding a dog who was barking incessantly from probably about 8 p.m. Till about 2 a.m. in the morning. The owners had tied the dog out, left the dog, left their residence. Every time somebody would come down the street or whatever, the dog would shut up, like he was anticipating they were coming to see him or whatever. As soon as they'd leave, the dog would start barking again. The police could do nothing about this because they couldn't hear the dog bark. The sheriff couldn't do anything about it because they very abruptly told me their only purpose was at-large dogs. They told me to call the Humane Society because when the one Massillon officer went out there, he did not observe any food or water. I called the Humane Society. Of course, they were closed, but they direct you to call their answering service. So I called their answering service, and I got absolutely no answer out of their answering service. At about 2 o'clock in the morning, I guess the residents came home, took the dog in. The people who were complaining about the dog, they've lived in their home for 42 years. They're in their 70s. The wife is ill with terminal cancer. The husband's her primary caregiver. They need their rest. There was absolutely no way anybody could help these people. That is absolutely unacceptable. The next morning, it started all over again. I started getting calls at about 8:30 in the morning from the complainant. At that point, I asked him to see if there was any food or water available for the dog, because apparently that's the only thing anybody is going to be able to do anything about right now. He said there was not. When I called the Humane Society, they were very curt. They seemed very upset over my call as far as the fact that I was even calling them. They said they would send somebody out. They took the address. That was probably at about 10:30 in the morning. They close at 4, and at 3:45, they called me back to tell me that they had the wrong address. And I didn't get that message until about 4:05. So nothing was able to be done at all. We really need to move forward on getting something to resolve this, because I can definitely empathize with these people to sit there and hear a dog bark for hours on end and be told, he was told by the one Massillon officer he needed to be an adult about it and go talk to his neighbors. Well, if the police aren't willing to go talk to the neighbors, how do they expect him to go talk? And if the neighbors aren't even there, how do they expect him to go and take care of it? We need a solution for our residents, and we need a solution fast, because this should not be happening.
Ms. Littman, I know we had discussed that in your committee. Do you know where that is or what's going on?
Well, I have not heard back from administration. As you know, I had originated the meeting with the chief of police as well as the sheriff's office to come together to council and explain to us the situations as they see them in their practice. I mean, what they actually see in the community on their calls, and then basically give to us some suggestions for how they would ask the city to remedy this. As you know, that meeting did not happen, and there was a subsequent meeting that took place with administration that, from what I understand, the chief of police was there as well as a representative from the sheriff's office, and they were, as well as other um, organization executives as well, to try to put some type of suggestion together for us. I was not able to attend that meeting. Mark Lombardi did attend that meeting, and I know in his discussions back with us, the discussions that took place in their meeting, there was no resolution per se. So as far as where it is currently, I guess I would ask either, that initial meeting to happen again in front of council so that we can then determine what our feelings are as far as putting a suggestion in front of council. Because at this point, I don't think that we even have enough information to be able to determine what is in the community's best interest. And when it comes to the solutions, I guess, the animal control officer is easy to say, we need one, but we also need a plan. We need to know how much will be needed. We need to know what equipment will be needed. If there's personnel that we currently have that could fall into that category. I mean, I think there's a lot of research yet to be done. And both the sheriff's office, in my opinion, and the police department should be part of that discussion.
Absolutely.
So
One thing that I would like,
go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I'm sorry, Linda. One thing that I would like to suggest is that we start looking at enacting an ordinance for how late a dog can be tied out alone. Because I think 2 o'clock in the morning for a dog to be out there alone, especially when the owners aren't even home, that should be something that we should be able to hold the dog owner accountable to. I was looking into it.
I think there's
I'm sorry,
something in
go ahead.
place.
Yes, I believe there is. And if not specifically to an animal, it is a noise ordinance as well. I mean, I know
Well,
when they
when I spoke with the police officers, they said there is no ordinance as to how late the dog could be out. They did say there is a noise ordinance, but the thing is they have to hear the dog barking. They have to be right there and hear the dog barking before they can issue any citations. Now, I've looked up in the state of Ohio, many communities have ordinances that say after 9 o'clock p.m., a dog cannot be tied out alone. There's various ones. Different communities have different time frames and everything. However, that would have at least given us some way of being able to, take care of this situation in some fashion. I'm not exactly sure what the solution is, but that's one of my suggestions. Is that we limit the time that an animal can be tied out. I mean, at 2 o'clock in the morning, that's ridiculous to have a dog out there just barking like crazy, while you're trying to sleep.
Well, I guess I'll ask a question. Is there an ordinance in place that says all dogs must come inside? Because it's my understanding that even within the city, a dog can be outside, can be an outside dog. So there's if we put an ordinance in place that said that outside dog cannot be outside after 9 o'clock, I guess I think it's permissible to have an outside dog remain outside.
Well, right now, there's no ordinance. According to the police, there was no ordinance that they could enforce outside of a noise complaint, but they had to hear the noise. Like I said, I just briefly, looked through some of the different ordinances that different municipalities in Ohio have. Cleveland seems to have the strictest ordinance. And yeah, that is a good question, because I didn't see anything about outside animals at all.
Linda, I like your suggestion of just trying to have another session with the administration and maybe the sheriff's office and our local police. Maybe it would just be a good idea for your committee to organize that, and you can use Uber meeting or Uber conference to host it. You might have to get with Diane with how to host a meeting, because we weren't able to get this thing launched until Diane got on tonight. So.
Okay, now, is anyone from administration on tonight's call that could confirm that would be something that would be agreeable to them as well? Because I don't want to go through all that again and have it not be something that we can follow through on.
Good evening, members of council. This is the mayor, Kathy. How are you tonight?
Good.
Good.
So, well, Mark, I want to just address you first about your concern. I've got an email I just sent out to the chief to call me tomorrow, because our officers should have been able to address that issue. Had we had an officer, animal control officer, I don't know that the outcome would have been any different. Because the people weren't home. That's an issue. The people weren't home. But I think that in the officer having them not be home, I don't know what the officer could have done except for take the dog, and then they'll have to return it when the family comes home. So I don't know what the outcome that you were looking for that, because it is a little complex because the people weren't home. Had they been home, the officer could have knocked on the door and said, please take your dog in, So I don't know the answer to that scenario, but I do know that they could have been cited for that. And so that's what I want to talk with our chief about, is why we didn't take that next step. And because I do have compassion for the woman that has terminal cancer. She shouldn't have to go through that. And in fact, on my street, several years back, we had someone with the same issue, except it was a loud car coming home. And all I did as the council person at that time was call the person that was driving the loud car and say, could you please turn your volume down as you are entering your home at 2 a.m, because your neighbor has cancer. And the person was compliant and was very appreciative of knowing that, and was able to turn their music down. So I think it's one of those. And I don't know that the officer should have said, be an adult and go over and talk to your neighbor. But, sometimes they are civil issues, and sometimes, having those hard conversations do satisfy that. But in speaking about the sheriff and the chief of police, we're happy to be able to come. We were hesitant to come, and the chief actually was hesitant to come because we wanted to have our internal conversation first and really do a gathering of information before we came to council, which we have done. And so I think that we could easily coordinate have the sheriff call in on this line, as well as, if you would like, the Humane Society, which we had at the meeting as well. We also had Stark Parks that took care of injured animals, was in attendance, and Mark Lombardi was there as well. So we'll be happy to coordinate that with Linda now that we've had the internal meeting, and gathering of information meeting, and we could get that accomplished maybe at your next work session, if you like.
That would be great. Perhaps we could, that would be what date, Diane? Just to confirm?
Yes, and I'd also like to inform you of the codified ordinances. Section 505.09 does deal with barking or howling dogs. And it does state at the end that whoever violates this section is guilty of a minor misdemeanor. So there should have been something that the police officer could have done. As the mayor stated, that person could have been cited or what, but if you refer to the codified ordinances, section 505, it does
We-
address that issue.
We did
But yes, I
discuss
can go
that.
ahead and coordinate. You want to have a committee meeting as far as police and fire?
Yes, our next committee meeting would be on the 27th. Or excuse me, our next work session would be on the 27th.
Mm-hmm.
Could we coordinate the committee meeting prior to that? Let's say maybe 5:30?
Police and fire?
Yes.
Good with me.
Mr. Therick,
with
would
me.
that work for you as well?
That'd be perfect for me. Yep.
Okay. Then I'd like to go ahead and set that for 5:30 on April 27th, prior to our next work session.
I do also
Okay, and
would
then-
like, I would also like to add that I did speak with two supervisors that night of the Massillon Police Department that said that the ordinance was in place and they could issue a citation, but the officer has to hear and observe the dog barking. And since they could not, because every time somebody would, just walk, even when the complainant would walk out on his front porch, the dog would get quiet just because he saw somebody. As soon as the dog would see a car come down the street or a person walking down the street, even a person was walking his dog, the dog would get quiet. It was once the dog was alone, there was nobody on the street, it would start barking again. So the
It's the
officers
opposite of
never
mine.
saw it. I'm sorry?
Just the opposite in our neighborhood, Mark. He barks at everything. 1
Okay.
o'clock in the morning.
Well, the officers couldn't see the dog barking, so they couldn't issue a citation at all.
Well, I guess
But
I
Mark,
would,
did they go over and talk to them the next day? Because the follow through could have been a conversation with the owners to let them know, just like I did with the loud car music coming in, just to kind of let them know that the dog is, really annoying someone that's terminally ill.
Well, here's the entire story. A few days before, the complainant had called the police for a music complaint. As well as the dog. The officer that came out that day told them that they would do what they can to take care of it, and they told that this officer was very nice, very accommodating to these people, and said, if you have any further problems, you call us. So the next problem came up on this particular night that I'm talking about. The officers at first only drove by. They didn't even get out of their car, and the people were home at that time. By the time I had talked with a supervisor, he had the officer call back to the complainant and explain to the complainant why he couldn't do anything. On the next shift, I talked to a different supervisor who immediately sent somebody out. Now I was listening. The complainant actually put his phone outside the door, and I could hear the dog barking myself. When the officer drove up, the dog was quiet. The officer went up to the door, knocked on the door, nobody was home. That was the first officer, and this was on the midnight shift, so it was after 10 o'clock. And these complaints started at about 8. That was the first officer that went to the door. Nobody was home. He sat there, and I guess he petted the dog and everything, and he said it was a nice dog and all that stuff. But he went over and talked to the complainant, and he was very rude and abrupt with the complainant. Shined his flashlight in the complainant's eyes the entire time that he was trying to talk to him, and told him to be an adult and go over and talk to his neighbors. After he was just told by another officer a few days before not to handle it himself, to call them, they would come out and take care of it. Now, if you've got a problem neighbor, I think sending the two neighbors together is probably more of a problem. It's looking to escalate the problem. And to push it off onto him, I thought was completely wrong. Okay, that's number one. Number two, once the officer left, the dog started barking again. And like I said, no matter who we talked to, who we called, nobody could do anything for these people. And that's just totally that's not an acceptable situation to put somebody in. These people have been residents of Massillon for 42 years. We can't put them in that situation, especially when they own their home. They've got renters next door. And by the way, he called the landlord the next morning to discuss this with the landlord. And the landlord hung up on him. She just said, "Well, thank you very much. Have a nice day," and hung up the phone. And
Okay.
Again, he's had other noise complaints since, but nothing is getting done here, and something actually needs to be done. We need to do something to, put some teeth into this so that the officers can act, or something can be done to get the people who are, with the dog or who are making the noise to acknowledge that they need to stop.
I completely agree, and I'll address this with our chief.
I appreciate that, Mayor.
Thank you.
So I'll just confirm that police and fire then will have a committee meeting 5:30 on the 27th. Of course, the committee, I'll welcome, as well as any other council member who'd like to join us as well. Should we, or Diane, perhaps, if you wouldn't mind to send invitations out both to the police chief as well as to the sheriff's office.
Okay.
And then, of course, administration is certainly able to be there as well. And if, Mayor, I will ask if you would like to also, as you had in your meeting, the Humane Society and Stark Parks there as well, that would be fine too. I think the more educated we can get in this matter, the more options that we can discuss, the better resolve we'll have.
Okay, no problem.
And
Thank
will that be, excuse me, will that be via teleconference also?
That will be this Uber conference. I'd like to have the video conference if we can.
Okay.
All right. All right, thank you. I believe we probably also wanted to hear an update, probably from the administration, as to how we continue to navigate the current crisis that the nation is undergoing. So, Mayor, do you have anything that you would like to say as far as an update?
Sure. I actually just did a video that will be posted this evening. So first of all, I hope you all had a great holiday. As you know, March 18th, we placed ourselves in an emergency position, and we were able to put forth the incident action plan, which has been updated, and the current incident action plan is on our website, and it goes into significant detail. So if council has not looked at that, it is on our website. The governor is encouraging people to wear masks, and gloves can also be utilized when you're out in the grocery store. Continue to social distance. Don't gather more than 10 people. And one of the things I talked significantly about today on the website was scams. So I'll review that with council if you don't mind. Dominion Energy put out an email saying that They heard people were going door to door demanding for payment on their gas bill, saying customers will be disconnected unless their balance is paid immediately. And that is completely untrue. So that is one thing I reviewed on the video that will be posted this evening. So Dominion is not going to come to your door and demand immediate payment, and they should call the police if that should happen. The next thing that we have wanted you all to know that the only way a solicitor can go door to door is once they have a permit from my office. If they do not have a permit on them, they must show it when they're going door to door. And at this time, we have not given any approval for anyone to go door to door to do coronavirus testing. That's a scam. To distribute any information related to the virus. We've not given any permission for that, or selling of personal protective equipment. We have not given anyone a permit or permission to go door to door for that. So we just really are trying to encourage and educate our people to understand that there are many scammers out there and to not fall for it. The other item that we said is to remind people to not send any money or give out personal information in a response to an unexpected request, whether it be a phone call or email or a text. And I know some of you have received those before, and those are scammers. So please do not give out any personal information, bank information, or send money unless you verify. And there are ways to verify. One is hang up and call another family member and ask if this person, friend, family member, neighbor actually needs assistance. Someone else should know this. Also, you can call the person back and say, give me your phone number, I'm going to call you back. And usually they will hang up and they won't give you a number to call them back. The other thing you can do is ask the caller something that they would know the answer to. For example, what's your birthday? So those are some of the ways to try to verify an email, a text, or a phone call for a scammer. I know that the stimulus checks are hitting in your bank accounts now. I know of someone that received one today. And we need to protect our residents from scammers trying to get your federal stimulus check. If the government, the IRS, has your bank account information, it'll be a direct deposit. You have to do nothing to get that. If the government does not have that, they will be sending you a check in the mail. So you should not have to give out any information over the phone to the IRS as well. Concerning the coronavirus, we want you all to get information from credible sites, the cdc.gov. The ODH site is coronavirus.ohio.gov. And of course, we have great information on the City of Massillon's website, massillonohio.gov. We also put a news release from Attorney General David Yost on our website regarding scams. So please go to our website and read that as well. I thought it was very well done, so I wanted to add it to our website. Affinity Medical Center was the old Affinity Medical Center was not chosen to reopen for the coronavirus. What they did do, and I completely support, is Northeast Ohio College of Medicine, NeoMed, had doctors that were graduating. I believe the number was 39 or 40. They also have Akron U students and Kent State students that are graduating from their nursing program. And they're going to stand up a site at the Kent State, I believe it's the main campus, to help with the coronavirus patient load. I thought it was a great idea. The doctors and the nursing staff were more northern to be able to handle this. And so that is what the governor has chosen to do. We have noticed over the weekend and last week that there were children gathering and hanging out together. And I just want to remind our community and our council members that children can also be carriers of the virus, asymptomatic. They can also catch the virus and they can spread it. So we are encouraging our parents to keep their kids out of groups and not to congregate. Another thing that we talked about on the video was voteohio.gov if you want to vote in the primary. And you can go to that website, voteohio, all spelled out, .gov. So it's voteohio.gov. Or you can call the Board of Elections to get a ballot sent to you. I know people are getting bored and the kids are getting bored. So on our website, we have activities for families to do. And one of those I highlighted today was the bear hunt. You can put a stuffed animal in your front window or on your front porch, and families can get in their car and go around town and look for bears, little stuffed animal bears. It's just something fun to do, and families can do it together, and they can get out of the house for a little bit while continuing to have social distancing. One of the other things I thought was really important was areas where food is being passed out or meals, and those are on our website as well. So people can go to massillon.gov and find those. The SAM Center is giving items out to veterans and widows of veterans. So you can go to the SAM Center also. One thing that I encouraged our community to do was to call and check on your family, friends, or neighbors. Our mental health is very important at this time, and some people may feel isolated, and it's always nice to hear a familiar voice. So if you have a minute, call a family member, a friend, or a neighbor and just check in on them. If you have any questions or feel like you have symptoms of the coronavirus, you can call Audrey at 330-830-1714. She is our nursing director for the health department, and she can help walk you through steps of, you know, if she thinks you need to be tested or if you should isolate at home. And she is there to answer all those questions. Or if you have any health department questions, you can call Terry at 330-830-1712. This health department is doing an outstanding job for the small step that they have. I'm very proud of all of them and the work that they're doing and keeping things going, such as WIC. They're just doing a really wonderful job. We are continuing to follow Governor DeWine and Dr. Axon's orders, and know that, you know, by every little thing that we're doing, we're decreasing the spread of this horrific virus and saving lives. So I just want to encourage people to continue to do that. Thank you for allowing me to give an update.
No problem. Are there any council members who have any questions for the administration?
I'd like to bring up something because I think that we weren't able to get a resolution. Ted had mentioned there's a lot of background noise. I don't know quite where that's coming from, but Ted had asked about the street department issue, and I was wondering if that's something he'd like to address at this work session, or did he have other plans for addressing that?
Are you asking me that question?
I am asking you that question.
Well, I mean, I asked the question. It was probably poor form, but I think the question is still.
Can you restate the question for
I
us?
can address that question. Right now, we're only using our street department for emergencies. They, in our opinion, is a non-essential business at this time. And so we're not going to move away from that decision. The decision is made by the entire group, which is Terry Argent, Chief Moser, Chief Burgasser, Barb, myself, Lori, Sam Walters. We have an incident command structure, and it has been determined that they are not essential at this time. Although we've had to call them out frequently for the recent wins, But a pothole is a non-essential item. And so we're not going to be moving or changing our plans at this time. We will wait till the governor gives us more directives.
One thing I wanted to mention is I had a situation where it was basically a series of potholes that were, I guess in my opinion, a safety hazard because a lot of residents were either hitting them on their way into or out of our shopping center here on the west side. I did call Lee McBride, and he was very accommodative. He said that he did have a supervisor in-house at that point, and he was going to be sending someone out to assess the situation. So even though they're not in the office per se, they are. He made me believe anyway that they are on call. So if they have situations that are, even if they are a pothole per se, but in this situation they were very large and they were causing issue going into and out of our shopping center out here on our east of Chicago side. So he was able to help in that situation. So I guess I would suggest that if we do have other situations like that, that he encouraged others as well as myself to give him a call. They're able to come out and assess it and see if it is considered an emergency or a safety hazard or something, and they'll do something about it.
Yes, Linda, that is correct. If it is in an emergent, if it's large, if if we have a sinkhole, something like that, we will be calling them out. But for your small potholes at this time, we're not doing those. We're following the directives of the governor. I know some people have not had their street department working, and some people have. Every city is allowed to determine that for themselves. And we are trying to save lives. So we have a little bit of a different philosophy than maybe others. And so we're going to stick with our plan and we'll await the governor's directive.
May I ask another question? I know that, I'm sorry, Ed, you were going to say.
I just wanted to comment on that real quick.
Okay.
I would just say that, as I've said in the past, that obviously this, what departments operate and how they operate is an administrative function, which sits outside of council's purview. But we can voice our opinion, and that's what this platform is for. And I think I've said it in the past, and if not, I'll say it again. I disagree with some of that assessment. I do think there are safety and essential, and it goes beyond just emergent situations. We don't have to wait for the hole to completely appear and become an issue. We can maintain and take care of in advance. Especially with these catch basins, one of my concerns is, especially on the west side, which happens to be my neighborhood, and I know they have it on the east side too. Some of these catch basins are right outside people's homes where they now have small children playing outside as a way of recreation, which that always creates concerns for parents. And we do have first responders that travel our roads, and we need to keep these up. So while I respect the mayor's decision and the team that she's put together, I would strongly disagree with that assessment and think that a truncated street department would be essential. A pullback actually would make sense, but we still should have something occurring on a regular basis. But that's just my opinion.
Ed, Lee McBride is working. He's taking all the concerns, the calls. If they are a complete emergency, we're addressing it. I had a call about a catch basin that we went and slated. And those are the things we can do right now. It is only a couple more weeks until and I think the governor will have more directives before May 1st. So it's only about a 2 more week span that we are going to stick with the way we are addressing it, whether council agrees or not, because this is the way the team has decided to go. And we have worked hours and hours on this plan. We review it multiple times throughout the week on conference calls. And all of us are comfortable with, the plan for right now. And I know everybody's pushing to get back to work, and but I'm going to tell you, as a nurse, my job is to keep our community alive and to not get the virus, so that we overload the healthcare system. So I'm looking at it, and our team is looking at it maybe a little bit differently than others. And I'd rather err on the side of caution than err on the side of putting people to work and getting more people infected. So I guess we're going to have to agree to disagree on this one because of my background.
All right, Linda, you said you had another question?
Well, I guess I just was referring to our list of phase 1 and phase 2 streets that were to have attention here fairly soon. We did allocate $1.3 million out of our carryover to be able to address these, and they weren't necessarily emergency issues, but they were issues and streets that needed to have paving, etc. I guess I was just asking what kind of a timeline or what effect that this would have on timeline. And are we still able to basically go out for bid, but recognize that our timeline for completion might be a little bit further down, or maybe in the summertime or later summer versus in the spring? Are we still getting those contracts in place and bids in place so that when we do have the release, these companies can be on our streets more sooner than later?
Well, the first contract has been awarded, and the catch basin contract has been done as well. And I'll have to check with Greg on the last contract. But no contractors are working at this time, and that's what we're waiting on to see what the governor has to say about that in his next time he brings. He's doing updates every day at 2 p.m., but he's not addressed that as yet. And so we're waiting to hear that. We're hopeful that he is going to do that. But again, they're going to have, once he does that, they're going to have in place, one driver per truck. You're going to have ways to clean the truck in between people. I mean, there's so many things that you have to do to keep people safe. And so we're just waiting on that to see where that's going to head next. And then when that happens, then we will relook at our street department.
All right, any other questions?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I had to unmute you real quick because we were getting some background from you earlier.
Justin, next Monday, could you be prepared to talk to council about the sunshine law and what we can and cannot do?
Sure. I mean, obviously that's a big topic. I can gloss over it generally as it pertains to the Open Meetings Act, I assume.
All right, I'd appreciate that. And secondly, over the last week or so, I've been making masks. If anyone on council would like one, give me a call and I will arrange to get it to you.
I would like to have one.
Okay.
That is great. I have one, but thank you.
Okay.
This is Justin. I'd take one too, please, if you have a really big one.
Okay. Any others?
No, thanks. My wife's making them too. This is Jim.
All right. All right.
I'd like one, Claudette.
Linda, I don't know what your schedule is, but if you want, who? Ted?
I think that was Mark Lombardi.
Oh, Mark, okay.
And Nancy already has one.
All right, and if you don't want to say it, all right, if you don't want to say it, just give me a call.
Thank you.
That's all
Thank
I
you,
got.
Claudette.
Thank you.
Oh, also, on Monday, is there any chance, this says Video Max reached only 8 videos can be shown at a time. Is there any way we could get more with a program that would allow more videos, since we're supposed to be video conferencing, according to Justin, which means for Monday, we would need 9.
We would need 10, actually.
We would need 10. So if someone could look into that, I'd appreciate it so we could see everybody. And although it says 8 are available, only 7 are up. So I'm not certain what that's about either.
Yeah, it's quite odd. I will
Yeah.
say that we can make a recommendation or a request that as people join the meeting, if they are not one of the officials in the meeting, so one of the council members or council president, that they turn their video off. Because you say,
But that's
Claudette,
still
you can
not-
still see us, but we can't see you, correct?
Right. Which means Monday I'm going to sit here in a swimming suit. Ha ha.
When
I
get
lied.
on-
I've got my reader on me right now.
When I get on Uber Conference, it asks me if I want to upgrade. And so I think there must be an option to upgrade that says it will allow up to 100 people. I mean, I don't know anything about it. It just asked me that when I entered this video tonight.
Diane, can you look into that with the administration for us?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. That would be great.
At this time, I will open it up. Is there anyone from the community that has called in and that would like to address council? All right, seeing none. All right, I guess that is it. I don't have anything else this evening if no one else has anything else.
Thank you.
All right, see you guys next week.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Stay healthy.
Would you all like an escort?